Hello everybody, and welcome to Mobile Europe's Talking Telecoms Week. I'm Annie Turner, and I'm the editor of Mobile Europe, and I'm very happy to welcome you to this session, which is all about RIC and the race for Open RAN. And the Radio Access Network Intelligent Controller, which is happily usually referred to as the RIC, is a very hot topic in telecom circles. It's very much still a work in progress, but there's much to come beyond simple network optimization. And I'm delighted to welcome a distinguished panel here to discuss this with me. So first, if I may, I'd like to welcome Francisco Martin, who's usually known as Paco from Vodafone. Could you just introduce yourself briefly, Paco, and explain to us how your job impacts or has an impact on this topic? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here today with this group of colleagues. My role is head of Open RAN for Vodafone. Essentially, I have a large team that is working on making this Open RAN new technology happening. We've been working on this for a number of years now, and my team is spread across multiple countries. We go from product integration to, before that, actually working with the different suppliers in the ecosystem to find the right solutions, hardware, software, tools, and we are well into deployment now, but I will talk about that later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next, may I come to Constantine Polychronopoulos, who's from Juniper Networks. Constantine, could you introduce yourself briefly?
Hello. Yes, happy to be here as well. I am responsible at Juniper for 5G products and solutions specifically for the radio access network, RIC, and SMO, what we call the service management and orchestration of the RAN. But my more important job is to convince our partners and, more importantly, our customers, like Paco here, to try to accelerate adoption.
Okay, and finally, last but not least, Nicola Marziliano, who is from Wind River. Nico, welcome, and could you please introduce yourself? Thank you.
Thank you, Annie, and thank you for inviting all of us. Good morning, good afternoon. I don't know from where are you listening, watching, but I'm very delighted to be here in this group of friends, let's call it, our partners and collaboration. I think we are all embarking in a similar journey. I was listening what Paco and Constantine just said, and for me, just echo what we have been doing during the last years. So we have been working, pushing, collaborating, and setting the new, the new target for the telecom industry going forward. I think this topic of the RIC, but in general the possibility to have a more automated and more intelligence at the edge of the networks becomes very crucial. We need to move from traditional RAN, where basically we serve the connectivity of the voice and a few other services, into more broader topic of multi-services. And so looking forward to the conversation today.
Okay, so let's start that conversation. So Open RAN deployments are underway, but so far they've been kind of in niche parts of the market. And just before we dive in to have a look at how that is now progressing and how we're moving towards more commercial, larger scale deployments, I'd like to come to Paco just to clarify something for us. And Paco, in the industry, we use Open RAN and O-RAN interchangeably. And maybe you could just briefly explain what the difference is and whether that difference is important or not, and whether it bothers you that people use them as though they're the same.
Well, I think as we've been on the topic more and more, I mean, they are somehow exchangeable, if you wish, but normally when we talk about O-RAN is for the most part, or most of the times, you refer to the O-RAN Alliance organization, which is the main industry body when it comes to specifying the technology, how interfaces need to be, and what is the process that needs to happen for that to be there. And then Open RAN, we think, is more like the technology itself, which is a combination of other things. It can be a virtual radio plus open interfaces, for example. But I think everybody will somehow understand any of those today without much misunderstanding, I think.
Okay, so now maybe we could talk a little bit about Vodafone, and particularly Vodafone in the UK and your deployment of Open RAN there, which is kind of a really major event in Europe, I would say.
Yeah, we're extremely happy with this project. Our colleagues in the UK are focusing on deploying, but that's is a big one, because you need to also change a lot of processes to adapt to Open RAN in all the areas, deployment, but also operation tools, and so far I have to say it's going really well. We've been public about it recently. We are comparing KPIs of the network with the previous setup, the previous incumbent supplier, and performance is really going well, and we decided to go into the full deployment. And that is going to mean that we will probably, in the next few months, as we scale up in the rollout, we will also focus a lot more on automation. If you still have a few sites, it's not very relevant, but now it's becoming more an area to improve. We think Open RAN has a lot to deliver in that space. Pure automation for getting new sites live or changing software, things like that, but also areas like RIC that we're talking today that can enable or unlock opportunities with applications running to the radio itself. So I think, in other words, once the foundation is okay, we will have to deliver on the sexiest part, I would say.
Okay, so we're going to come on to those opportunities and that innovation in a minute. Nico, how about you? I think we've been looking at the Dell'Oro projections.
Yeah, well, the Dell'Oro study is a keeper projecting and forecasting by the 2027, in the year to come, a progression in the Open RAN or O-RAN adoption, going to account for a 30-40%, probably even more than 40% of the market share. I think we are still at the very beginning. I think if we look at the numbers, we are still at the 6%, which is below 10, so the double-digit market penetration. That is maybe from an investment perspective for the vendor that are involved, is still not at the same speed and adoption that everybody has been looking at, but the steps are there, and it's quite evident by the trajectory we see that especially in 24, there are a lot of activity ongoing. We do expect a lot of major players, and Vodafone is clearly, the front runner in this extent. It's setting the precedent that from 24 onward, there will be a lot of selection, decision, and then 25, 26 starting to be the rollout. So if the question is when that adoption will start in a more scaling volume, it's going to be 25, with the 24 being the year of decision, so the tipping point.
Okay, and Constantine, I know you've got some strong views about the when, not if.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question as to whether it's going to be and if it's going to be absolutely the way to go forward for a host of reasons, right? We can talk about technology evolution and the fact that, nobody can go up against natural evolution of technology. You go to more efficient methods. stronger solutions, better solutions that address well-known problems and open up new opportunities. But the adoption, is always hard, right? One of the key things that we need to unlock, especially our customers, is to enable smooth migration, slow migration from the existing network architectures to ORAN-based solutions, right? So that you can have the two coexist, the network of yesterday and the network of tomorrow to coexist and slowly or even quickly have the network of tomorrow take up, more and more of your infrastructure. So that migration has not been, easy to address. Again, not necessarily for the lack of solutions, but it takes willing parties to put resources to make it happen. And I think we're starting to see very encouraging signs.
Okay, so as Open RAN becomes a significant part of RAN and RAN deployments, what contribution is it going to make, apart from obviously accelerating Open RAN itself? Where are the opportunities beyond this just network optimization? I don't know who wants to take that. Maybe, I don't know, Paco? You okay?
Yeah. So I think Open RAN is a lot about collaboration. So we need to somehow support between ourselves. So there are over 500 operators in the world. Not everybody has the opportunity to invest, creating labs, creating teams to work on Open RAN. So the big ones, I don't know, say top 20 that we can do it. We have both the responsibility and the opportunity to support the smaller ones getting on the Open RAN journey. And so I think this is something that we need to see in the next few months. I have to say that we have started already. We are getting calls and supporting operators across the globe. And this is an area where if we don't do it, there is nobody there to do it. So we will have to support.
Okay, when you say support smaller operators or operator groups, I mean, do you mean showing them by example, demonstrating that the interoperability and the integration is there and it works?
Yeah, it can go all the way from supporting on strategy development or sort of consulting to show interoperability or run interoperability testing for them, or helping on design, or even ultimately in the actual implementation. There would be system integrators doing that.
Yeah.
But I think we, the operators, will have a big important role in that as well.
Okay. Nico, can you talk about new services, the new use cases, the new revenue streams? How do you see this evolving?
Yeah, indeed. I would say Paco talk about the fact that we need to have an ecosystem of partners and the full industry collaboration to make it further accelerating. I want to maybe highlight the other aspect, which is also the motivation for the industry to do that, either from a carrier perspective and from the vendor perspective, which is exactly the possibility to have new service. And I think if we go back to the previous question of what is the ORAN and the acceleration and adoption, at the end of the day, technology are just an excuse to migrate from one solution to another, and driven by a certain business. Now, the 5G introduction created the kind of discontinuation from the past, which is cloudifying the networks. And this cloudification opened up for not only technologically a new solution, but also from a service perspective, the possibility to open up new service, new use cases. So I think that we need to think about Open RAN as an enabler for opening for new potential that is not just purely connectivity. I wouldn't say that the traditional RAN is good enough for the standard connectivity, but then you may have continued. But then with the opening of the cloud provide a completely new set or a full set of additional opportunity and capability that were not possible in a traditionally vertically integrated deployment. So for which going into the cloud becomes not only a technology play, but becomes also a revenue and new service streams, which is for us is very important. Of course, the technology implication of this cloudification are many, and you need to do in the right way. You need to do with the right partners. You need to do with the right innovator. You need to do with the right technology, which of course has to be efficient, scaling, robust, distributed, because of course there are some trade-off between the various technologies that you can opt.
Constantine, how about providing means of differentiation for operators? Is that a big element?
That's a key part of what O-RAN can deliver, right? Because we're moving away from, again, I refer to the old way of doing business, which is building the radio access network, primarily using appliances. And when you use appliances from a few vendors, you don't have a whole lot of choice, and any change is a tall task, right? We're moving to software-based solutions. And one part of a huge part of what O-RAN delivers is the ability to have visibility into what's going on in the radio access network in terms of traffic performance down to the level of individual connections, addressing subscribers, users. And the other is the ability to modulate those, to dynamically adjust settings in the network. And that is very powerful platform upon which you can build all sorts of new capabilities that allow the operators to differentiate, right? That address everything from user experience to opening up capabilities, as Nico said, for new revenue streams. I'll use an example that we did with Paco's team at Vodafone. We demonstrated the value of traffic steering and admission control, and how easy it is to deploy these kind of applications. And a side effect of that was higher utilization of the network, right? Even though we're addressing two distinct applications. We're looking into the future, for example, and we know that augmented reality is going to become a reality for many vertical industries, right? You have service people on the street going to replace everything from an appliance to an airplane, right? So augmented reality gives the ability to connect to the network and have high bandwidth, low latency capability to get real-time help right from the main office. So you can visualize exactly where the problem may be. So all of this is possible now. You can, the operator can offer capabilities that they will continue to evolve that were not possible before. And there are many applications, if we go into spectral, efficiency or sharing spectrum and on and on. So it's going to be a new era when it comes to what can be done through, the radio intelligent controller in particular.
Okay, so thinking about control and about differentiation, how strong is the case for integrating artificial intelligence and machine learning into Open RAN-based architectures? And I'm thinking maybe of Massive MIMO to boost performance, because there's a case where the established rule-based optimization can't really get us close enough to what is the theoretical possible performance. So the physics outstrips the policy at the moment. So Paco, I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about that, and if you've got any use cases up your sleeve to do with AI and machine learning?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, we started working in artificial intelligence in radio 6 years ago, in 2017. Since then, I have to say we have introduced a significant number of functionality in the radio because it's really well prepared for machine learning. You have more complexity. Radio now is a completely different animal to what it used to be, in the sense, how you have more frequency bands, more technologies, more transmitter and receivers. So the opportunity, the number of possible configurations, parameterization has gone to the moon, right? So machine learning can help you managing that, and the Massive MIMO is certainly one area. I have to say that even though we have been successful in implementing some modifications, we believe that with Open RAN, this is going to be more flexible. It's going to be simpler to incorporate innovations from startups and other companies, because it's difficult to move traditional suppliers. And in the area of Massive MIMO, we've been doing things around beam steering, for example, using artificial intelligence. But optimization can be significantly improved. It can be done through RIC in a non-real-time way. Maybe that's like an improvement of optimization, because you can have drive test information from the network and then develop a set of right parameters that you have to put in the network to get the best performance. Or you can do it even on real time as well. It's very good suggestion. I think we are going to see a lot of AI in RIC, and Massive MIMO is the most complex part of the radio systems today. So certainly where to look at them.
Do you feel that's a good starting point?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's where most of the value will be captured, because that's where most of the complexity relies at the moment. So yeah, it's a fantastic tool for that.
Okay, Constantine or Nico?
Nico, you want to go?
Yes. Yeah. Constantine, it's the same.
Yeah, so I do believe, I agree with Paco. AI and machine learning is going to affect pretty much every application, every capability, because you have to realize the ability to look at massive amounts of data, historical data, and also monitor data as things happen in the network, and from there identify trends that are important either to the end user or to the network efficiency, and have applications that utilize that information to mitigate the problem ahead before the problem happens, is a very powerful proposition. So roughly speaking, that's where AI and machine learning are going to play a vital role. We have demonstrated at Juniper the value of AI and machine learning when it comes to a number of applications, including network slice assurance, the ability to maintain SLA that you have committed to deliver at all times, or the ability to do admission control when you have a massive number of users, subscribers, moving from one part of the network in a sports venue, for example, to another part of the city. AI allows you to seamlessly, without human intervention, shift resources of a network to follow usage. And there are many, many more applications. So I do believe also that it's going to have to be essentially an integral part of every intelligent application running on the RIC.
Nico, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, well, just I think that the two gentlemen already cover all. I would say probably the small addition I can add on top is AI and machine learning are technology that, yes, as Paco said, has been already experimented in the radio side. I think that we are now with the Open RAN opening up, as I just said, the cloudification of the networks and the cloudification and the softwareization of the radio will open up for even more. Maybe moving a little bit more to the bare metal part of, and the challenge, of course, especially in the example of Massive MIMO, that means also the silicon has to be there. We need to have the right silicon capable, and that means performance, and the performance will also drive certain cost, and the cost means also energies and consumption. So you need to have so the more you tweak your your controller for the better performance of your networks, the more you risk of increasing also the power efficiency and energy consumption, for which you have exactly need to have an AI ML that is capable to learn and then revisit the pattern of utilization and optimize. But ultimately, you need to have a platform. So I'm back to my favorite topic, that you need to have a scalable infrastructure that is supporting that business. Because one of the limiting factors so far was that, yes, the theory was there, but then when you need to have an incredible machinery that is fully loaded, then there is no economical benefit of doing that. So if you need to put a macro towers down to perform that, so you need to be efficient and scaling down to the minimum hardware and the component of the cloud infrastructure to do that. So you need to optimize the software, you need to optimize the hardware.
So really, with AI, one of the things we need to remember is that scaling isn't always up, and sometimes the scaling down is just as critical.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so we're talking about RIC. It's very much work in progress, but if I understand it rightly, it is going to coordinate all of Open RAN's virtualized, disaggregated, multi-vendor ecosystems and all the components, including, I guess, the players within there. I mean, can you give me some examples what RIC's going to control and how the thinking is it's going to achieve that? I don't know, Constantine, if you've got something to say about that.
Happy to, absolutely. It's near to my heart. But let me, if I may, make a distinction between what you said, that it's work in progress. Absolutely, it's work in progress. Just like any new technology, right? It's going to continue evolving. However, there is the other question: is it mature enough for deployment? And the answer is absolutely yes. We have demonstrated that many times, and I'm proud to say that at Juniper we released, we have a general availability product on the radio intelligence controller that can be deployed in a real network. Now. When it comes addressing your question, the importance of the RIC, think of the RIC as the operating system of the radio. And I use the analogy oftentimes of, 50 years ago when we used to have applications that were custom built for different machines, IBM machine or, CDC, or those of you who remember, what was happening in the 70s. And then Linux comes around, Unix, Linux eventually, and Microsoft Windows, right? And we stopped thinking about the machine itself, the hardware itself. We were thinking about, okay, I'm writing an application for Windows, or I'm writing an application for Linux, and I can run it on any system. It's the same, opportunity with the RIC. You no longer have to think whether the network comes from vendor, the radio access from vendor XYZ. You think about the network as a 5G or a 6G infrastructure, and you build applications, right? The other thing is, the RIC, as we said earlier, exposes APIs that allow an application to make wishes as to how the radio access network is configured and potentially change policies, right? And that's a very powerful proposition. That's done through the RIC, which is also the gatekeeper of what's happening at the application level, because Nico referred to optimization versus energy efficiency. This may require conflicting configurations in the network. So the RIC captures that, says, okay, you try to both of you applications try to tweak the same parameter in the network. Who takes precedence and what is the impact of that, right? So all of that mitigation or capturing conflict and mitigating conflicts, all that happens in the radio intelligent controller. Just like an operating system kernel manages resource utilization across competing applications. So it's essentially the layer above the infrastructure management, above the BIOS, if you wish, that enables all these capabilities at the application level. And I can go on. Sorry for going down a deep end.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
Paco, can I ask you maybe to talk about the Vodafone Open RAN platform, the architecture particularly, and RIC is one component, and you've got non-real time, and you've got real time, and you've got the orchestration. Could you just talk us through a little bit RIC's responsibility within that architecture and how it's different from what's gone before, maybe?
Yeah. So the RIC is one of the key components. They are all important. What can I say? But I think RIC has two roles in a way. One is the natural evolution of the self-optimizing network, as we know from the past, currently implemented in our networks, meaning a better platform to do the evolution of that. But at the same time, RIC becomes an opportunity for new business models, for new applications in terms of the scope of them, because you can go for real-time implementations. So in that sense, it's not an evolution; it's more a revolution, and we still need to see how big this will be. But we are very encouraged to see the initial results. As Constantine was saying, we've been performing trials with them, and there are some interesting use cases in the area of spectrum efficiency, for example, and another areas. So it's certainly a new guest in the radio, but very welcome.
Nico, maybe we could talk a little bit about how this all connects into the cloud infrastructure, how it all works with the cloud. I mean, 5G standalone is a native cloud architecture, but could you maybe just elaborate a little bit more about how this all works together?
Yeah, well, just maybe briefly, as the real-time, so the RIC as a real-time controller or near real-time functionality is the one that is managing, as Constantine just said, from the BIOS up, meaning the software part of the equation of the RAN, the new RAN stack. There is the flip side of it, or the other side of the coin. It's the cloud infrastructure, and that is also orchestrated by a non-real time, which is the SMO functionality that is overarching and controlling the cloud infrastructure as well. So it's the application management as well as the cloud infrastructure management. And on the cloud infra perspective, we are doing also a lot of work with the O-RAN Alliance and with the partners like Vodafone to test either how the SMO and the non-real-time functionality can be exactly avoid conflict, like I just said by Constantine. So who is taking action, especially in the application side, and that is resolved by RIC. But then above that, between also the cloud infrastructure and the application, because you solve one conflict, then there is another conflict, which is at the cloud infrastructure. So the availability of cloud. And that is solved by the SMO and then by the non-real time. That is exactly what we have been doing there. And as Juniper has been experimenting some RIC use case with Vodafone, we have been experimenting the cloud infrastructure, and we had some very seminal work that was the CPU utilization state, so controlling the P and the C state of the CPU and switching on and off depending on the traffic and the utilization. That was very as I said, seminal work, meaning that there was not experimented yet before, and we are now evolving the next phase, which is going to be productized in a capability to make it controllable, so that we can get efficiency.
Like much more granular control than previously was possible.
Yes, it is, exactly, and of course, it's not affecting the application side; it's more affecting the infrastructure side. But that's, again, back to my favorite topic of energy efficiency, which is probably one of the most critical point in this period of energy crisis. Is going to be a very important topic to be addressed.
Okay, and so this, I think, talking about RIC's role here and the applications in the cloud, I think that throws into a sharper light the conversation we had a few minutes ago about artificial intelligence. I think that pulls it all together more about how artificial intelligence will affect different parts, but especially where the RIC sits and AI's application to the RIC. Would that be a fair comment?
Very true. Yes, indeed. Okay. I mean, the application, an AI, an ML infrastructure can look in the past, from the massive amounts of data, and look at what's happening right now, and give directives to, for example, Wind River, that we don't expect to have high utilization for the next period of time, 1 hour. So Wind River can move the CPU state from the high utilization to the low utilization and shut down part of the infrastructure, which saves energy. And you can come up with this kind of capabilities that are dynamic and are based on the ability of the infrastructure to predict what's going to happen in the next few minutes, the next hour, in the next few days, right? So the potential is huge, but we'll have to demonstrate it on a per application basis, go application by application, and manage the conflicts. That's going to be one of the more tricky parts, where AI can also help as well.
Okay, so being dynamic and flexibility are huge aspects here. So this is all quite sort of, you call it evolution. It sounds a bit more like revolution to me when we think about where we were with the RAN. So let's also just have a little look into the future and see what the next steps are and how the three of you see the whole thing evolving and where we're going to be. And I know there's no final destination, because always in telecoms, where we think the journey's end is moves further and further out as things change. And, it's like you never get to the horizon, do you? It's the same kind of principle. So let's have a look at the long-term vision for Open RAN, and what can the ecosystem vendors and potentially operators expect to come from it? Maybe, Paco, we should pick on you first to give us some ideas about what you think.
Well, if it's just talking about Open RAN in general, I think we need to deliver on the initial expectation, which is having a technology that allows for faster innovation, and as a result of that, also getting a better cost, so that we can do more with the same amount of money. In particular, we've been talking a lot about RIC. In that sense, we need to be able to show that we have new applications unseen so far that unlock a lot of value. Okay. And Nico, there's still a lot of legacy RAN out there. So it'll be, I think at the moment, it's probably 80-20 traditional versus Open RAN. In 5 years' time, say, how do you think that ratio might have changed or flipped? Do you think that's going to happen? And what needs to happen for it to change?
Well, let me start firstly with the second part of the question, which is what need to be happen first. Paco mentioned before, and I want to reinforce again, and probably going a little bit above, partnership and collaboration and industry, it's going to be key. We are now not only collaborating with standard like Oran Alliance and TIP and many others, but also we need to further standardize certain procedure. For example, what we have been doing with Vodafone, but now we are doing with Juniper, we have been doing with other partners, is to make pre-integrated, pre-validated, and maybe possibly through some standard pre-integrated capabilities, so that we don't need to demonstrate too many times. Paco just mentioned before, okay, we need to prove it. But once you prove it, I mean, the risk is that you're going to be in a continuous proof. So then you never end of proving what. So we are going to be in 5 years' time and still proving. So there should be a point where that becomes standardized. And that is where we are also collaborating with all these bodies of standards, so that will be entities or teams or organization or operators like Vodafone that will be in a way helping to certify and validate, so that really that becomes a plug and play capability set.
I think that your ambition. Sorry.
Yeah, well, no, it's not me, because now in the industry there is many players are expressing the same desire. I mean, so far experimenting was okay, but then after a few times, then probably we need to better engineer the openness of that solution. And I think that now some bodies like TIP is now pushing to a certain standardization that will make repeatable the pre-integration and pre-validation of certain components. And for me, there is one, is not the only, but probably one of the major component that will enable that easiness of adoption. Because we talk about openness, but too many times in this A-RAN, B-RAN, C-RAN, D-RAN, I can continue with the alphabet, different variation of RAN, everybody say, oh yes, but that works if you use component A, Y, X, Y, Z. Oh no, it works only if you use this and that. No, it has to be really open, and to be open has to be really pre-integrated and pre-validated. For me, that is going to be key. Now, having said that, is not 80-20, maybe still 90-10 today, becoming 80-20, but in a 5 years time, yes, there is really the potential to be 20-80, if not even more, because if that goes in the right direction to be cloud-based, everything, traditional RAN will stay as long as it stay the business justification and the economics to maintain legacy technology, but everything else will be switched immediately. So how much the pace and the speed of adoption to move from 80-20 to 20-80 in the next 5 years, in my opinion, is exactly this adoption of pre-validation.
Okay, so you think the industry's ambition should be plug and play, so that you can just do it rather than keep going through these validation, certification, and other cycles. Okay, thank you. And Constantine, what about you? What do you think 10 years or 5 years down the line, where we're going to be?
I think Nico summed it up well, and you said it very well. The long-term goal is plug and play, right? We want to bring some of the enterprise practices to telco, so that you can download a new version of the software and plug it into your infrastructure automatically, right? Do refreshes every night as opposed to every 6 months and shutting down the network for an hour or two to do an upgrade. So we need to bring that flexibility of the enterprise to the telco infrastructure, and that's going to take time. Of course, I agree. It's going to take several pieces to come together, especially collaboration of the industry, of the ecosystem, especially the vendors, openness to be able to address interoperability ahead of time, right? So that we take, it addresses some of the key objectives at the core, TCO, the total cost of ownership, we want to take out of the equation and the cost equation the system integrators through automation, so that our customers have the confidence that when they download a patch or a new version of the software, whatever that software might be, it has gone through all the stages of security checking, integration checking, validation, performance validation, etc., and then it's ready to go, right? So far, we're at the very early stages, but ORAN moving, from custom solutions to software-driven everything is the catalyst that will eventually allow us to get to the destination.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That was quite a ranging discussion. Paco, Nico, and Constantine, I'd like to thank you very much for your input. That was great.